morning, Lighthouse. So you might notice someone in between Ian and I this morning. This is Scott Walker. He is not only the amazing transportation coordinator for Mission to Mexico that you guys know, but he also works here in the finances. And this is a great time to introduce a rule that Ian and I have instated. If somebody walks through while we are filming our vlog, they must be a guest on the vlog. So, Scott is here with us this morning. He's so lucky that he came up here at the right time. So this morning we're just kind of going to go over a couple talking points that we found interesting from last night's small group discussion. The thing that I found most interesting out of our small group was if you are unwilling to recognize that something is a temptation and has a stronghold, then it's going to be impossible for you to put it down and give it up and change. So I think just being the thought that we need to learn how to recognize what actually is temptation in order to let it down, give it to God, and look for the way out that God has provided. So Ian, you had some points too.
Yeah, some really good conversation came up in our small group time about what it means to make the decision to follow Christ. And one of the things I was struck by is that when you're battling temptation specifically, no matter what the temptation is, there's a need to have already chosen to follow Christ, but then again to follow Christ in that moment. So in other words, if you enter into a context in which you're tempted, the decision that you've previously made to follow Jesus carries a certain intentionality with it, that when you enter into that moment of temptation, there's a certain resolve and a strengthening that takes place. But in addition to that, we all, no matter how strong we are in our resolve to follow Christ, we are all in those moments still very much tempted. And as we discussed last night, God is at work through His Holy Spirit in our lives, trying to provide opportunities for us to get out of that and to not make that destructive decision. And so again, it becomes another moment in which we follow Jesus. So we're following the leadership of the Spirit out of that time of temptation. So again, Scott Walker here joining us. And Scott, we just wanted to ask you, what is one thing that you have used in your life in battling or facing temptation?
Well, I think it's a variation of what Ian was saying. When there's an area that I've resolved to change, and the Holy Spirit has convicted me of something, or it's just something I want to do differently, it's making a pre-decision. So I decided that I don't want to spend as much money on junk food. And so I make a rule, and I share it with somebody, usually my wife, but it could be other people. And so it's not a Bible rule. It's not God coming down on me and imposing. It's a pre-decision. I call it a rule, but it's a pre-decision. And so years ago, one of the things was I was spending all this money at the gas station junk food stores. And so I made a rule that I could still buy junk food if I wanted to, but I had to go to Safeway. Right? I had to make a separate trip. I couldn't just buy it at the gas station thing. And what the Holy Spirit it was pretty easy, and the times that I was tempted, it was way too much hassle to go to Safeway. So it was like, okay, I don't need this anyway. I mean, I knew I didn't need it, but it was a system and a method. And yeah, I was still tempted, and I would still look at the Oreos in the AM/PM mini mart or whatever. But it was like, no, okay, this is easy, because I think the pre-deciding, and maybe that's not a great example because it wasn't that hard, but pre-deciding was a huge thing, because once I had decided that and I shared that, then it wasn't very difficult to keep up. So
great,
one area.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Scott. So what I love about Scott's words is he had intentionality and he had accountability, which is a great thing. Those are two really good tools in battling temptation. So Lighthouse, as we end this series on guys and girls, and specifically on this week of battling temptation, we just continue to hope and pray that we are all being led by the Spirit, actively led by the Spirit in our lives. And hopefully that is like Jesus prayed or taught us to pray, which is out of temptation, but hopefully it's also into good things. Hopefully it's all into all the blessings that God has for you. So happy Thursday or Friday or whenever it happens to be that you see this video, and we will look forward to seeing you next week.
And be careful not to walk through the room when they got the video set up.
What's the deal? Can't you read?